back, everyone. Welcome to another AWS On Air episode where we're going to go ahead and talk about Cloud Quest, Cloud Practitioner. My name's Aaron Hunter. I'm a senior technical trainer with AWS Training Certification, and with me we have Raf.
Hello, thanks for receiving me, Aaron. I'm Rafael Lopes, Principal Cloud Technologist working with AWS, and today I have the pleasure to show you here the AWS Cloud Quest right out the AWS On Air table in the New York Summit.
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm so glad to have you here, Raf. But what are we going to do? What are we doing today?
Yeah, so we've been doing a Twitch series, and this is actually the fourth episode of the Twitch series. And we've been playing AWS Cloud Quest, which is a role-based game.
It's a game.
It's a game.
Okay.
Yeah, we are playing a game, right?
And you do it on Twitch?
We've been doing that on Twitch.
The gaming platform, so a gaming
platform, exactly, right? So we've been teaching AWS Cloud Practitioner while playing the AWS Cloud Quest game on the AWS Twitch channel.
And Cloud Practitioner, that's one of the AWS certifications.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a free version of the game where players can find on AWS Skill Builder. I am going later on show how to get access to the game, and I will be playing the game as well. So today we will explore the Q&A part of the game.
Can I play the game with you?
You can, you should.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we both have game shirts.
Thank you for my shirt. I love it.
We got Cloud Quest shirts. Look how special we are.
All right, here we go.
All right. So let me share my screen and show you how to get the game. And this is Cloud Quest Cloud Practitioner.
Let's see what this is all about.
It is available on Skill Builder. So AWS Training and Certification, we want to be where the learners are at.
Okay.
Right? So if learners, they want to learn AWS by reading, they have the extensive AWS documentation.
We have public docs available.
We have public documentation available.
And blogs.
Blog posts,
yes,
announcements, and everything. If customers want to learn by attending to in-person classrooms, they can have instructor-led trainings.
Okay.
If they want to learn by watching videos, if they want to learn on a self-service-based fashion, they can go to AWS Skill Builder, or they can go to Coursera, Udemy, edX, where we have courses
and
published.
And that's skillbuilder.aws.
Yes,
perfect.
That's the URL for Skill Builder. If
they want to learn more.
If they want to learn playing a game, they can go on AWS Cloud Quest. And we have the Cloud Quest Cloud Practitioner role available for everyone to play.
And that's what we're talking about now.
That's what we are doing today.
Perfect.
So let me show you what actually we are doing. This is AWS Cloud Quest Cloud Practitioner, right? A web page that we did for the Twitch show. We run episode 1 where we talked about cloud computing essentials. It's available on Twitch on demand if people want to watch.
I see it says watch on demand, so they can go there and they can watch it at their own pace from the comfort of their own sofa.
Exactly.
Or chair.
Exactly.
Gaming chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So on episode 2, we talked about cloud first steps. Availabilities on region, difference between one another, region scope level services, AZ scope level services. That was episode 2. Last week, we got episode 3 where we talked about Ec2 instances.
Ooh, okay.
Right? Yeah,
so that's our compute platform.
Yes.
Perfect.
We talked about instance families, stopping an instance, starting an instance, what's the difference between an instance that is hibernating and an instance that is stopped. And we all did that by playing game assessments.
Okay.
Right? Today, we are going to do a big QA and a big recap about the game.
Nice.
The game can be found on AWS Skill Builder.
It says drones. Did I see that right?
Yeah, it's drones and pets. We're gonna have pets as friends. The game has a feature.
Giraffes.
Yeah, the game has a feature where you can get like pets and companions and customizations for the city that you build. So this is AWS Skill Builder. It is a learning management platform where you can get access to multiple trainings. If you search for Cloud Quest will be there. So that's how new users get access to the game.
Awesome.
I already have a running account. I'm already a veteran in the game. And let me load my game here. So we can start having some fun.
Did you mention it's free, or is there any cost associated with it?
Yeah, it is free to play the Cloud Practitioner version of Cloud Quest.
Awesome.
Right? Which is the one I'm doing right here. So everything you were seeing on your screen right now is with the free version of the game.
Awesome,
right?
Perfect.
So you can learn a lot, and you can get access to hands-on labs for free for the Cloud Practitioner version of the game.
And hands-on is critical for learning, so we can get that reinforcement learning and actually better understand what we're doing.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Exactly. So it's learned by doing.
Yes.
With a real AWS
environment. I just saw on the screen there were some shadows. What were those?
Yeah, there are some shadows here, and I can see there are some drones flying over my head and some paws, and there's lots of things happening. There's this city where if I click in drone view, I can see how my city looks like. I've been playing this game on Twitch recently, so I am a level 4. Okay. My character is called Deploy to Prod. If you click on the upper left corner, you can customize the avatar. So you can, each assessment you complete in the game, you get gems, which is like the game currency. Okay. And you can use these gems to unlock vehicles, city customizations, and some things like that. Customizations, such as, for example, if you go to the boutique, I can buy this orange coat, or I can buy this, look at that, I look like a doctor, and I can buy this one for 30
lab
gems.
Coat.
Yeah, a lab coat, right? Because we are going to
do labs?
We can do labs, yeah. So for one, I have 170 gems, so I can get this one.
Are you going to buy it right now?
So I just bought it, and it equipped. So my game character now looks like a doctor. Look at that. So
Dr. Raf.
Yeah, Dr. Raf. So this is Cloud Quest, right? And there are lots of things ongoing on the city, and one thing that always orientates me on where I should go is what we call the XR device. Okay. Which is like the cell phone the player has, and if you click on the XR device, you can route and go to citizens in town that are in need of something. Got it. And you are the technical person who will help them unlocking their needs by using the cloud.
Can we check that out?
Sure, yeah. So there is a module called Networking Concepts, and another, we call these assessments or nodes. Another one called Cloud Economics. I got my super skateboard, look at that doctor.
Is that a hoverboard?
It is a hoverboard. It is inspired on the movies, you know.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Very futuristic.
I know, right? Just like the cloud. So there is this doctor on the skateboard going to the next assessment, and the citizens in town are usually waving, and they are saying like, hey, I have a question. So if you click on them, you can interact with them, and there is a dialogue. That dialogue is where the customer sends the requirements, what they want you to help solving. Okay, right? And
I'm going to interrupt you real quick if that's okay. Speaking of questions, raising your hand, if you're watching live, please type your questions in the chat. We have people here to help us. So I see Morgan's there. Morgan, hey Morgan. Hey Morgan. Go ahead and type your questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. But sorry, Ref.
Of course. All right. So I'm not going to play the node. So especially because it's free and it's a lab, our viewers can go create an account on Skill Builder and they can do that. What we are going to do is exploring the drones and pets, which are flashcards with questions, and we are going to answer these questions and discuss and teach Cloud Practitioner level. Awesome. But this is just to show how the usual game node goes. There is a dialogue with a citizen in town in need of something. In this case, this guy wants to set up a surf shop in the cloud and needs some help. And then you start doing solutions.
Main issue is cost.
Main issue is cost in this case, because this is the cloud economics, so I assume, right? So for this specific node here of the game, you will need to resize an instance to accordingly fit the bill, right? The budget. So if you hit next,
between these parameters, like between 4 and 2 in the evening.
Yes, and it teaches you how to use the AWS Pricing Calculator as well, which is a tool very used for solutions architects to estimate the budget.
I believe it's just calculator.aws.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about how AWS pricing works, go to calculator.aws, and you can learn a lot more about EC2 compute pricing or Lambda pricing and so forth. Basically anything cost related for AWS.
Exactly. Yeah. So there is this dialogue that builds the storytelling of something you need to do in the town to unlock, to help that citizen, right? And the good thing about the lab, I'm just going over the dialogues here, accept. When you accept and go to the Solution Center, AWS Cloud Quest will provide you teaching based on the number 1, which is the learning aspect. In this case, it's talking about the demand to avoid over-provisioning resources and things like that. Everything will be taught on this.
The peaks and the spikes.
Exactly.
And how to meet that capacity change.
Yeah. Okay. So you can explore video concepts. It teaches you some aspects, so you can watch videos, on-demand videos here that explain you AWS pricing overview in this case, which is a cloud economics game node, right? So there are animations and everything. Other than that, you can plan what you are going to do, which in this case, it will just create an estimate of an architecture using the AWS Pricing Calculator and change an Ec2 instance type to better provision, because you can have multiple Ec2 instance sizes, right? And you can have more or less instances depending on your need.
Awesome.
And so you can match the infrastructure to the workload, not the other way around.
And that's a really great practice, and we should try to observe that as much as we can. We have a question here in the chat from Edgar's Razor. I think there was a question earlier about if you can play Cloud Quest anytime, or if it's just available during this Twitch session.
It is available anytime. You can go to AWS Skill Builder, search for AWS Cloud Quest. You need an Amazon.com account, which you can create. You do not need to input a credit card on any billing information. You can get access to the game and start learning and having some fun, right? With real AWS accounts where you do assessments and you validate. Because it's a game, you need to pass the level. It's not only about doing the lab.
And have fun.
Exactly. So you follow step-by-step instructions represented by the sidebar on the game. This one specifically has 20 steps. So it shows you what you need to do step-by-step with screenshots, right? And it gives you an AWS account for doing so, right? So it gives you an AWS account, and on the do-it-yourself fashion, you need to validate. So there is a game node, for example, that asks you to change an instance type. So you need to stop the instance, change the instance type, and put the instance ID there. So whenever the game validates, it gives you an award.
That's
right?
cool. That's really cool.
Because you are actually helping a citizen in town.
So I feel validated by getting that reward.
Yeah.
Is that my validation?
Yeah. So these validations are gems, right? And level in the game. So I am on the level 4. If I open my XR device, I can see all my progress with the Cloud Practitioner level. I am 25%. But the game also has a feature which are the pets.
Yeah.
And the pets also combined with the drones, which were those things you saw at the beginning of our stream.
I see we have different animals here. Our shirts have a giraffe. Is there a giraffe?
Is there a giraffe?
Is there a
here?
giraffe?
That could be a good implementation for the devs to implement the giraffe, because we have
I saw an
giraffe
elephant
in our shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these pets, they are walking on the city, and we must find them. But there are some tips, such as paws on the floor, so we can follow them.
So you can follow the footprints or the paw prints.
Exactly, and I can use the ASWD arrows on my keyboard, and I can engage my hoverboard as well, and I can freely walk towards the city, right?
Okay. So
here's a pet. Here's a pet.
ASWD?
There's a pet here. Yeah, ASWD. Or you can click to walk.
Okay.
If you double click, then the character goes there.
Perfect.
It's what we call route and go.
Perfect.
So there is a pet here. When we click on the pet, right, the pet comes with a question for us. In this case, it is a question always regarding a game node or a game assessment that I have already played.
Okay, and this question here says there is a 20 KB limit on Amazon S3 bucket policy sizes, and this is saying, is this true or false?
Yeah, exactly. So
what happens if we click false?
I don't know. Let's see.
I don't know. Let's find out.
The bucket policy, we talked about bucket policies in the first assessment.
Yes.
The bucket policies are the permission mechanisms that we use to allow or deny users accessing S3 buckets. By default, Amazon S3, which is a storage service, it has buckets and objects.
Yes.
By default, it's private. When you create a bucket, and if you follow the defaults as we did on the first step, it's all private.
Awesome.
You have to override that and allow a bucket policy to be edited, and you have to explicitly put a bucket policy allowing public access to the bucket.
Yes.
Or you could allow only certain users on the account on accessing that bucket.
And that bucket policy allows granular control.
It allows granular control. You can specify prefixes and permissions based on these prefixes. So the bucket policy is a JSON statement that you put as a bucket configuration. We do that on the lab 1 of the game.
Okay.
But the bucket policy itself, it has a size constraint, which has no relation to the object sizes you put in the bucket.
Okay.
Right?
It's the policy size itself, and that's what this is asking about.
It's just the policy, right? But a good thing about Cloud Quest is that there is an interrogation mark on the bottom side of the screen that links me to the AWS documentation containing the information that will help me answering that question.
Okay. So before we click false, if we click on the question mark, that'll take us to the public documentation.
Exactly. So this is the public documentation, AWS public documentation. And look at that, right?
Okay.
so
it is 20 KB in size.
It's 20 kilobytes inside the limit for the policy, which is like a JSON statement. It's 20 kilobytes of text for permissions. It's more than sufficient, right?
And you talked about that in episode 1.
We did.
So if you haven't seen that, go back and watch episode 1 for Cloud Quest and learn a lot more about that.
Yep. So it links to the AWS documentation, which is actually a good practice. Whenever you don't know anything, you can look for the AWS documentation, and there may be answers there with examples and things. So
Oh, I see a comment in the chat because we've been saying JSON, JSON, JSON. I've heard it JSON, JSON, I don't know, but JSON, and thank you, nothing is impossible for calling us out. It stands for JavaScript Orientation Notation, or is it JavaScript Object Notation?
JavaScript.
It's one of those things, like I don't even know what OSI stands for anymore.
Yeah.
You just say it.
Yeah. So, it's JSON. It says like...
And Ken Sherman said he's going to submit, or they're going to submit a request, a feature request for a giraffe. Thank you.
Yeah, it's called JSON. It's a notation that usually has curly braces and to specify the bucket policy in this case. So bucket policies, the documentation says it is limited to 20 kilobytes inside. So there is a 20 kilobyte limit on Amazon S3 bucket policy size. True, right? The limit is 20 kilobytes. So referring to the AWS documentation is something I usually do on my daily basis when building something with AWS. And it's a good practice that the game recommends you go into the documentation. Yes. Nobody memorizes everything about AWS, right? I don't know a single person.
There might be one person in the world.
Maybe, yeah.
It's not me.
But the documentation is supposed to be used that way, like consulting the documentation. So that's what happened when we correctly answer a question on the Cloud Quest Cloud Practitioner on the game. We have reputation, one more point in Amazon S3, right? And Seagull is becoming more friendly. Still needs to answer 2 more questions.
Okay.
Right, from this specific pet to unlock this pet. So this pet in the game starts following me.
The seagull wants to. You want the seagull to follow you?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
There is no restrictions on the kind of pets. Here we can see all the pets that we have. We have Raider, which is a pet that I had already unlocked.
Okay.
We can take Raider for a walk. So if I get Raider for a walk, Raider, which is the dog, it starts following me. It's so cute.
Yeah, so cute.
Right. So. There is this very good practice, this very cute practice of pet adoptions in the game, which I highly encourage. And there are some things flying over my head here. So let's get the drone capture device.
Yes.
And let's get some drones in the game. So I'm going to get the drone capture device, and it's this thing here. Luckily, I have a mouse here with me, and we can hit one of the drones. So let me hit this drone here. I can walk a little further to get in the drone range. All right, now that I hit the drone, I can manually go to the drone, or I can click on a button called Route and Go.
And there's someone else, AWS Lucas Sam? Lucas Sam? Lucas AM? I don't know, let me know how you pronounce that. But they said, if you walk around, there is a giraffe. Its name is Claudia. I see what you did there, Cloud.
All right, so which Amazon S3 feature automatically changes data storage tiers based on your specifications?
Ooh.
So to start with, Amazon S3 data storage tiers. Amazon
Do you want
S3,
me to answer?
Yeah, let's explain.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so storage tiers, you can have different storage tiers on Amazon S3.
Yes.
It has no constraint in terms of number of objects that you can have in a bucket.
Okay.
There is a constraint on a maximum object size, but you can have as many objects you want in a bucket.
What's the max size?
I think it's 50 gigabytes, if I'm not wrong. I have to see the AWS documentation.
Yeah,
right?
we'll
so
check,
these numbers,
check the docs.
Yeah, these numbers I barely memorize. We memorize fundamental and important, right? But there are different storage tiers. So you can have Amazon S3 Glacier, which is for infrequent accessed objects, where the price per gigabyte is lower, but there is a retrieval fee when you want these objects, right? There are different object storage on Amazon S3, and as usual, if we hit the interrogation mark in our game, we can see the object lifecycle, and we can automatically transition objects in an S3 bucket from one storage class to another.
Okay.
Right?
So as a player or as a user, we can try to answer the question, but if we aren't sure, we can click the question mark and get straight to that documentation for that question, which can help us answer it and further learn.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Exactly. So that's the whole coolest value that AWS Cloud Quest has, you actually learn things by playing a game.
Yes.
So it's not only about just, and when we had the idea of creating that on Twitch, we saw like, wow, it's awesome because it's a gaming platform, but by doing on the AWS channel, and now during AWS events with the visibility of being also live on LinkedIn, Twitter, and other platforms, we can teach, right? And it's what we love doing.
It's so cool,
right?
Yeah. Literally our job.
Exactly.
I love doing it.
Yeah, so there are information here, lifecycle configuration, which Amazon S3 feature changes data storage tiers based on your specifications.
And before you do that, there's a comment in the chat saying S3 intelligent tier, and I want to call this out real quick. S3 intelligent tier is a storage class for Amazon S3, but it's not an option that we see down here. So we see Amazon SNS notifications, lifecycle configuration, Amazon S3 Glacier, and event notifications. So don't add your own response options, stick to what we have here. So in this case, based on clicking the question mark, it seems like Raf is going to generate maybe and gravitate toward lifecycle configuration.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And this is interesting to your point. It's important to observe what the question is asking.
Yes.
Right? Especially if you're thinking about doing certification exams.
Yeah, critical.
Yeah. So sometimes there is like choose 3 or choose the best option that applies. Yes. So among the answers, more than one can do what the question is asking, but one of them may be more optimized, maybe the best option. So always pay attention on what the question is asking for certification exams.
Slow down, read it. If you still aren't sure, mark it for review, move on.
Yeah, exactly. So Amazon S3 Intelligent Tiering is one of the storage classes that does that lifecycle configuration automatically for you, right? You have infrequent access at objects, Amazon S3 standard, reduced redundancy, which is not called reduced redundancy anymore, but all of them, they change the price per gigabyte.
All based on access patterns.
And access patterns, and the durability of the objects in the bucket, right? So the actual configuration name that transitions objects from one storage class to another is called, as we saw in the documentation, lifecycle configuration. So let's answer that.
Okay,
and it's
you are correct.
I am correct, you were correct. So we got a card. And the game also have a dynamic called challenges. Some of the drones, they are different. They are yellow. They have a yellow ring on them.
Ooh.
These are challenge drones. And on the challenge drones is where you use the cards. So let's see if we find a challenge drone here, just to explain the dynamics of how the challenge works.
Let's go drone hunting.
Yes. So I'm going to take that card, and I'm going to press escape to leave. And look at the dog is following me. That's so adorable. You can see there is a drone there that looks different than the others. It has a yellow outline. Let me get my drone capture tool, and bam, hit the drone, route and go.
Did you
You don't need to be very precise.
Okay.
It's not an FPS. It's not like a first-person shooter game. It's about learning. So
I thought you were talking about networking, frame, packet, segment.
So you see this drone looks different. It has a yellow outline.
I see that.
Right?
It's colorful.
Yeah. So this drone is a challenge drone. It doesn't have a flash card with a Q&A on it. If I go to challenge, I can use these cards I have collected so far as part of the drone capture and drag and drop them to build architecture. So
that's really neat.
Yeah, there on the left sidebar, I have my cards where I can drag and drop.
Okay.
We got lucky because we answered 2 questions from past drones that gave me these cards. And these are the cards that I need for this challenge.
That's perfect.
So this challenge, we need to fill in the missing architecture components. It's cool because it gives you the opportunity of learning on you drag and drop the services, right? So the island stabilization system is malfunctioning and we need to spin up a new server as quickly as possible, start a new instance from a template created of the existing servers, right? We need Amazon EC2 cards for this challenge and also an Amazon machine image card for this challenge.
Yeah.
And luckily we have these 2 cards in our libraries, right? So the IT professional can interact with Amazon machine images, and from within Amazon machine images, it can create EC2 instances.
Okay, so that's the AMI, and the AMI is the image that's used to create the EC2 instance. And I kind of want to ask you, how do we get the AMIs?
That's a very good question. We did that on the third node, but of course
on the third episode
we are here. Yeah,
no, let's stop there. Go back and watch episode 3 on demand.
AMIs stand for Amazon Machine Image.
Yes.
Right. It is the operating system that you have deployed on your EC2 instances. There are AMIs from the AWS Marketplace with pre-configured software already running.
Okay.
There are AMIs from the AWS Quick Start. these AMIs from the quick start, we have Linux machines, we have Linux images, we have Windows images, we have Windows image already configured with Microsoft SQL Server. In this case, the licensing of Microsoft SQL Servers is embedded in the instance hourly price.
In the pricing, okay.
Yes. And you can create your own AMIs.
Okay.
So a very typical architecture is creating an EC2 instance from scratch, configuring that EC2 instance, taking an AMI out of it. So you create a snapshot of the disk, and then you create an AMI out of the snapshot, and then you can save the AMI for your own account.
And have kind of like a golden image.
Exactly.
And maybe reduce my bootstrapping or scripts running and so forth on the instance.
Yes.
Perfect, cool.
Yes, exactly. So let's validate the challenge. I hope it's right. We create EC2 instances from AMIs, from Amazon Machine Images, and we were correct. Here's your reward. I'm glad we were correct,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So I get 10 gems and 5 points on Amazon EC2 proficiency in the game.
Keep going.
I can go back to the city, and we can explore more drones. Today's episode is all about recapping by interacting with the drones and the pets, right? And again, this role that I am playing in the game, let me show this is the character customization screen. If I go to the XR device and click in more, and open the roles map, I can see the assignments for the Cloud Practitioner role. So there is Cloud Computing Essentials, Cloud First Steps, Computing Solutions, Cloud Economics, networking concepts, configuring VPCs, which is virtual private cloud for the network, databases in practice. We will be playing databases in practice in our next episode next week.
Next week.
Yes.
When is that episode?
It's next Wednesday.
Okay.
At 1 p.m. Eastern time.
1 p.m. Eastern. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There's core security concepts. There are file systems in the cloud. So there are lots of assessments where you can get access to a real, fully working AWS account, follow step-by-step instructions, and learn by playing AWS Cloud Quest.
Going back to the question when you said, oh, you're correct. Nothing is impossible says, Raf's always correct.
Thank you. Nothing is impossible, right? Thank you for that. So there are other roles as well which you can explore as part of the game. For now, we are doing the AWS Cloud Quest Cloud Practitioner, which is free. I have a pet here with me. There are some drones. There are also some yellow pins in the city where I can build something on that city, right?
That's really cool.
You know these games where you construct a city? It's kind of similar, but you need gems in order to construct things in your city.
We can explore the city, we can follow paw prints, we can shoot down drones, we can build a city. What else can we do?
We can get better and on Cloud Practitioner and maybe try the certification exam. Yeah. Look, how valuable is that by playing a game, right?
It's very, very valuable.
Yeah. So, but you were asking about, of course, things in the game. You can interact with drones, you can do the challenges, you can get the pets.
Okay.
You can unlock city customizations, feet customizations, and vehicle customizations.
Vehicle.
Remember the hoverboard I had?
Yes.
I can use gems to buy other vehicles as well. Let's build this pink playground. It looks like I have 150 gems.
Another question from Twitch, from Gavin XI. Can you pet the dog?
Look at that. If I click on the dog, it tells me back an emoji. Like in this case, it's this. It's
so
cute.
You're petting the dog by clicking on the dog?
Yeah. You interact with the animals by clicking on them, and some of them that you find on the city, they will be grumpy and they say, "Don't pet me, I'm not a pet."
Ooh, do you have treats?
It's funny. I actually laughed out loud by playing the game sometimes. It's super like, it caught you on a surprise because
Is it
you
that
were like,
fun? Is it that fun?
It is.
Okay.
As a gamer, I can ensure it is. Like I have some laughs sometime by playing it. So let's see this drone here. We have another drone. Let's get my drone capture device and interact with this drone. It is also a challenge drone, right? Because it has the yellow ring. I hope I have the cards to interact with this yellow drone. Let's see. Oh, come back here, drone.
What is happening
This
right
drone
now?
is rebel. Doesn't want to go down. Anyway, let's try another one. Let's get the drone capture device. This drone is,
the dog's ears are still
it's going
perked up.
away. Look at that.
Where is it going?
Let's find another one. Let's try hitting another one. All right. So this one, drone down. Let's navigate directly to the drone. So it's interesting we are doing this Q&A here today, right? Because it helps people to understand what Cloud Quest actually is and
We're
the amount of
different
fun.
behavior and the fun, yeah.
Yeah, and knowledge checking you can have out of the game. It is only making me questions about EC2, S3, and regions because that's the game nodes I have been played so far.
Okay.
Right? As you play these levels about NoSQL databases, load balancers, security with IAM, identity access management, more questions will appear as part of the drone challenges.
Should we maybe ask the audience what they think the answer might be for this question?
Absolutely, absolutely. Which of the following allows a user to connect to a Linux Amazon EC2 instance via an SSH client?
Ooh. Instance ID, public IP address, or metadata? Type your answer in the chat. We're watching a chat on both Twitch and LinkedIn, so type your answer, and I'll read out another comment from Nothing Is Impossible. He says, or they say, this is great resource to deepen the foundational knowledge of AWS Cloud. Yes,
that's very good.
Is.
That's very good to hear.
Yeah.
The AWS Cloud Quest game developers, they are watching this stream, I'm pretty sure, and they will be very happy to see how valuable it is, right? On the last episode, we talked about the difference between connecting to an AWS EC2 instance using SSH, Sessions Manager, and EC2 Instance Connect.
Okay.
Right, so we talked about that. We talked that in order to have EC2 Session Manager working, you need to have up and running an agent in the operating system.
Yes.
It is technically not SSH. You connect via the client.
The agent, yeah.
Yeah. But if you're doing EC2 Instance Connect or regularly connecting to the EC2 instance via SSH, then you have a private key, and the instance has a public key, and you connect on the instance, and you need the instance public IP address to connect.
And right? I see that's maybe an answer. So a lot of people are saying public IP, public IP.
It's a good indicator that you're getting it right on right out of the chat. So let's hit public IP address, right?
We're gonna give it a shot.
The instance metadata, you don't use that to connect on the instance.
Yes.
The instance metadata provides you information about the instances and
data
the instance
about
ID.
Data. It's data about the instance.
Exactly,
yeah.
And that's the tricky one because the instance ID is needed if you want to connect in the instance using Sessions Manager.
Yeah, and actually the metadata, you can get the public IP address from the metadata.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let me answer that always with the AWS documentation on the option.
All learners, all viewers, you are correct. You are correct this time.
Awesome. So you see we unlocked a new card. We unlocked a card from AWS Secrets Manager. So whenever we are doing a challenge that needs AWS Secrets Manager as a component, as an architectural component, we can drag and drop that card and complete the challenge as well, right? We got lucky that we got a challenge that only needed cards that we already had. So I'm going to take the card and let's find another drone here. Let's hit this one. And we can route and go to the drone. You have 20 seconds to go for the drone. That's why I like using the route and go, route and go option. Yeah, on the lower left side of the screen, you have a countdown, right? And if you let that countdown go, the drone flies away, so you lose the drone. So EC2 Instance Connect requires a user created and a downloaded SSH key.
And we just talked about SSH and access and the keys and so forth. So
exactly.
I think this one might be true.
I'm not sure.
Okay, let's see.
I'm not sure.
EC2 Instance Connect. Slow down and read the question.
The Instance Connect is the one that temporarily creates the key pair for you.
Slow down and read the question. That's one of the tips we gave earlier.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the EC2 Instance Connect is an SSH facilitator in a way that you don't need to have long-term private key. You don't need to have long-term credentials. So it dynamically creates a key pair, gives you the private key, and for 60 seconds, it adds the public key corresponding to that private key in the EC2 instance. And so you do an IAM call to connect.
Level 3025 is calling me out and saying, false. It is false.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
So it requires a user-created and a downloaded SSH key. It requires a user in the AWS account, an IAM user created, so that part is okay. It is not an OS user, but it's an AWS user. You need to have an IAM user with permissions to connect on the instances using EC2 Instance Connect. But you don't need a downloaded SSH key.
I see more people saying false, 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 false. I know. I hear you. I hear you. It's okay. It's false.
It's because they were with me on the last episode, so they learned about that. But in any case, you can always hit the interrogation mark, and you can see instructions for that, right? So let's try answering false, and let's see. You are correct. So I got a card, an Amazon RDS card. From now on, I will be able to use the Amazon RDS card on the challenges.
Okay, and I just pasted in the chat, it's false. Yes, I see.
Right, awesome, awesome. The pet is still happy with me, and there is also something in the game which we introduced in the latest deployment, which is the player island. So if you zoom out on the drone view, you can see there are different islands, and there is one called the player island, which if I click in the customizations, it's like my home. It's where I can change the vehicles, it's where I can do things in the game.
And this is actually a really great time. So one person said, it is possible to access more learning paths with a skill builder subscription. So solutions architect, serverless developer, and machine learning. And I can see machine learning, serverless, cloud IL, security. Yeah. Yeah,
there are other roles. We invite the players to experiment and to explore the islands, the other islands, what the game has to offer other than the Cloud Practitioner.
Explore and be curious, learn and be curious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So let's spend some gems. Let's go to my player island and let's unlock, since we are in New York, let's unlock something that looks like a building that we have here in the city.
Yeah.
It's not blue, but it looks like, right, it has antennas. New York cities, they always have antennas on top of.
Is this the tallest building in this city?
Yeah, it looks like a very familiar building with an antenna on top, right? Let me go back to the street view. Also, if you interact with citizens in town, they will say they will give you some information, and some of them has Easter eggs, I've heard.
I heard that the shift key equips the vehicle.
Yeah, so in my keyboard, if I press the shift key, then I have the hoverboard, so I can fastly
You can walk or you can hoverboard?
Exactly. So let me see if we have time for one more drone.
I think so.
Before wrapping up.
Yeah, a few more minutes here.
Let's use this time that we have on the live streaming to pass the most information we can to our audience for them to learn about Cloud Practitioner. Let me hit this last drone here, route and go. We still have 3 minutes. It's enough to do our last challenge. And let's get the last quiz. Which of the following cannot be included when creating an Amazon machine image, an AMI?
Ooh, okay. So the options here, installed software, operating system, public IP address, and EBS snapshots. I wonder what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, so there are some things that are embedded in an AMI.
Yes.
Such as, for example, as you said, you can create the golden AMI.
Yeah.
So you can create an AMI, install some software, and you can create your own. Okay. That's what we call a golden AMI that has the installed software on it.
Yes.
So option A is wrong, right?
Because it cannot
be included.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the key word here, not.
Operating system. The AMI is the operating system, so of course this one is also false. EBS snapshots, it can be included. It has a more relationship with AMIs.
You're pointing to that snapshot as part of the image.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But something that is ephemeral is the public IP address of the instance, especially if you do not allocate what we call an elastic IP to the instances, right?
The elastic IP address, if we perform, and you mentioned stop, start instances and so forth, and I think that was episode 2?
Yes.
Episode 2 for Cloud Quest. Go back and watch that. But you can stop and start an instance, and then you get a new public IP address, and that's not part of the AMI.
It's not part of the AMI, yeah. Right. So networking is different from the running software. It's brought by you by Amazon VPC, Virtual Private Cloud.
Yes.
You have an ENI, an Elastic Network interface attached to the instances.
I see all the messages in the chat, public IP, and you are correct.
Yeah, so I'm happy that we unlocked lots of cards because on the next episodes of our show, and we just leveled up, look at that. So there is a progression of my player. And I'm happy that we played with Q&A recap, pet companions, drone challenges, and we had fun here while teaching AWS Cloud Practitioner to our Twitch audience and LinkedIn audience. Thank you very much.
And where can they go to learn more?
Yeah, so there is a web page. If you just search for AWS Cloud Practitioner Twitch, you're going to find this page here, right? And this page has the episodes we've been doing as part of this series, where you can watch more and learn for free Cloud Practitioner topics on the AWS Twitch channel. We are streaming every week on Wednesdays. Next week, I'm going to stream from my home. On the episode 6, we will be streaming out of Amazon Reinforce conference, security conference.
Reinforce. I'm looking forward to that. That's in 2 weeks, so register, attend. It's all about security. And thanks for tuning in, Raf. Thanks for being here live in New York at the AWS Summit. From all of us here at the AWS On Air team, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for receiving me as a guest, Aaron, and thank you everybody for watching us.